Welcome to NGE Podcast. NGE stands for Not Good Enough. We're going to share with you, topic by topic, the ramification of NGE and how to deal with certain circumstances. I truly believe that life is very short, and in the universe, we might just be that blip in the sonar, on the radar. We might as well make sure that we are a blip that matters. Enjoy.
Oh, we just spent podcast talking you up, and I see on Instagram
I missed that
a
bit.
bottle of herb that she didn't share with us. So
Oh, that's nice.
that would have been nice.
All
Very
right.
grateful for the verve.
Okay, well, people, thank you very much for joining me. We have is your names on all the screens, right? So we have Shaye Wallis.
Mm-hmm.
Say hello, Shaye. And
Hi,
yeah,
everyone.
you might want to say a few words about you.
About me,
Yep.
I'm in that incredible office you were talking about earlier, Wisebury Heritage Rentals Department. What was that?
Not sharing the verve.
Not sharing the verve. No. Very grateful for Darren, Megs and Kim for a bottle of verve for something that I was proud to do last week. So pleased about that. I've got 2 young boys and grateful to have been at Noosa for 3 days talking about NG, and the book just tied those 3 days in really nicely for me. So I'm excited to be chatting about it today.
That's nice. And we have Louise Fleming.
Hello, everybody. So, all of you know who I am, but
No, not in the NG podcast. Now, this is
Okay.
the other podcast. Yeah.
fair enough. So, I'm the director up here at Port Macquarie and Foster, business partner Stephen Thompson,
Yeah.
and I have my daughter here who's Taylee Fleming on the screen as well. So she's 21. I have 2 other boys, 19 and 15. And yeah, I'm just really loving this book, Thomas, and I'm excited to be here to share it with you guys. So
Very nice. Thank you. So we have Taylee.
Yeah,
Fleming.
hello. I'm Lou's daughter, as you already know. I'm up here in Port Macquarie as well. I do paramedicine, and yeah, I'm here because of Thomas's book. It was a great read.
All right. Thank you so much. We have Cameron.
I'm Cam. I'm director of Wisebury, Carringbrow and Killarney Vale. I'm Thomas's business partner and long-suffering mentoree. Family man, father of 3 also, and I'm here because I was told to be. Otherwise, I'm sacked. No, I'm here because what
you want
Thomas
to
is
be.
doing is probably the most important work that he's ever done in his life, and the book that coincides with that is going to help a lot of people. So let's chat about it.
Mhm. And then I'm here with Dean Webb from the Gold Coast.
Hey everyone. So yep, I'm on the Gold Coast. I'm the director of Wisebury Varsity Lakes. I started with my dad about 8 years ago now, and I've recently taken over about 2 years ago, right as COVID started. And yeah, I'm excited to also share my experiences with the book as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
Then let's dig in. So what did we get? First of all, I was very touched, and I've been sharing your stories all over the place, Taylee. You want to share with us the story, or do you want your mom to share your story? I mean, how the hell did you stumble on my book? 21-year-old, the last thing you want to do is to read a serious book like that, NGE.
No, I walked into Mum's office the other week. I was getting some documents signed, and I said, "What's that? What's that book?" And I looked down, I seen that Thomas wrote it, and I said, "Oh, can I have that?" And Mum and Chris went and found me a copy, and then I went home and I finished reading it last night. So yeah.
The little bit that she left out there was she picked it up and she started reading it, and I think she read
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, she read I think the first section of page 9 where it says, Confucius says we all have 2 lives, and the second one begins the moment we realize we only have one. And she looked down and she said, I need this book in my life. Can I have this book? And I said, no, you can't. This is my copy. I said, but I'll see if we've got a spare one and I'll get you one. And then I said, you do realize this is Thomas's book. and she really didn't at that time. But yeah, she took it, and then when I spoke to her last, I said, "How you going with that book?" And to my surprise, she'd read, more than a quarter of it at that time. So I was like, "Okay, well, she's into it," which is really good. It's I think it's pretty deep stuff, really, and sometimes, like, I'm sure you guys can probably all resonate with it as well. I was reading some things throughout it that I probably wasn't quite ready to hear either. So it's a hard pill to swallow at 21, I suppose. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd rather have that book in my life when I was 21 because
Yeah.
really the future is gonna be so bright for you, girl. It's just crazy, right? Where most of us, especially me, and it says in the book, have been carrying that bag on our shoulders for so many years when
Yeah.
we should have dropped it.
So many years too.
Yeah.
Sorry?
So many years, mate.
I know,
So
so
many.
many. 30, 50,
Keep going.
It's a pretty
100.
Keep going.
What about you? What about you, Shaye?
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with Lou. It is quite intense, but for me, it was almost two books in one. I found the first part really intense and really heavy. And I got to the point where I was reading only 10, 20 pages a day and then sitting on it and digesting it. And it wasn't till I got a little bit into part two that I realised I was racing through it. So, and I think I said this in the review I did, Thomas, it's two books. The first one, and it's rightly divided into two parts because the first part is really intense and there's a lot of lessons and exercises in there should you wish to do them. But you can also absorb your learnings from that. And I really enjoyed the commentary and the observations at the end. I think that finished it off really nicely for me. So kind of went up and up and up, and then it leveled out and you almost felt this calm towards the end of it.
Yeah,
That's nice. Gee.
Really nice.
I'm sure you're a book critic somewhere in your past life if you're not doing real estate.
Maybe.
What about you, Dean?
Yeah, for me, it's been like everyone's saying, it's been really intense. But so I'm like reading through it, I'm almost getting tired just reading it. But it's been a different outlook. Like obviously, we spent 3 days at Noosa, and that was very intense as well. But this book for me was because I've been reading every day with my partner. So we started as a morning routine. We decided we'll read 5 to 10 pages a morning. Sometimes we go more. But for me, I think it's going to be more like a manual where I'm going to have to go back and keep revising and revising and revising, because it's like some of the stuff we picked up and then you can quickly forget about it as you go back into your automatic routine that you've got.
Yeah.
So I feel like the book now is like a great tool where you can keep using it and using it and using it. And even if it's just one page for the day, there's so many stories in the book that there's always something you can pick up from. And I've found that to be, it's just always going to be on my desk for a very long time, I think. So unless you write a better book, but that's going to be there for a long time for me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
It left a big opening too for me. Like I think for a good couple of weeks after, I felt like I had the need to search for something. Not so much that I went back and I did the exercises that were there, and perhaps I should have, and I may at a later date, but I felt like there was, like I needed some pieces to a puzzle to put together. And so I was racking my brain through past memories to try and work out the source of my NG. And I think I had to come to a point of either putting it aside or realising that there may not actually be a big source there for me. It's just been lots of little things over the years. And I agree, I left the leadership conference thinking, so is it something we've all got? Is it something we haven't got? Is it something that's good, that's bad? But I think it's all of those things wrapped together.
Yeah. 100%. I think the thing that I found with it, like as we left Noosa and Thomas said, it's available on Kindle. I had not used Kindle prior to that, and I thought, well, I've got a couple of plane rides to get out of here, so why not? Now's better than ever. So I got it on Kindle, and I started reading it on the first plane trip, and I think, I think I spent a total of maybe 2.5 hours on the plane, but within 2.5 hours, I'd read half the book because I couldn't put it down. And I even mentioned it to Thomas. It resonated so well and made so much sense. And to me, it was a massive relief because there was parts of it where I read where I thought, oh my God, like it's actually normal to experience some of the things we experienced. Like I was telling Thomas about a time where I was just driving to work and I seen this single mum on the side of the road pushing her stroller with a baby in it, and then she had three other kids, and they looked like they had nothing, and they were struggling, but I just seen this mum persevering regardless. And at the time I was like on my way to work, I was singing along, I was having a great time as I have a concert every morning in my car. And next minute I just burst into tears and I thought, shit, what's wrong with me? What's happened? I've just had a mental breakdown. I've had a nervous breakdown. It came out of the blue. I didn't know what it was. But then the next phase I went through is don't tell anybody that happened, because people are going to start thinking you're mad. People are going to think you got something wrong with you. This is shameful. This is embarrassing. This is crazy. But then reading Thomas's book, the same thing happened to him. And there was really no explanation, but something was triggered. And to me, it all makes sense now after reading the book that it could have been a memory from 25 years ago. It could have been just seeing somebody like pushing on that just released something in you. I don't know, but it made sense after reading it. And I think that was such the powerful thing for me, that it made me feel normal. And I think that's what a lot of people need these days, is normal.
Can I just comment on that too, Lou? It's interesting you say, don't tell anybody that this happened. Everyone will think I'm crazy. And I think particularly women, well, men and women, that's the way we are, and we don't want to show our vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
And in turn, we're potentially feeding everybody else's NG, It's okay to have those days.
Yeah. It's okay. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, my own experience in the last month since Noosa was just, I think I've cried the most in the last month than any other time period. Like I've become so much more aware of what my routines are and how it's been thinking. And I've tried a couple of different therapies and different things as well. I thought, I've lived a cozy life. I've lived pretty, my parents looked after me and all that, but there's still a lot behind there that you just hide in shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to talk about. And I think what this book does is it really opens up that dialogue for a lot of people. If even if it's just to talk to yourself.
Exactly.
And thinking, so what's your experience like? And it's like you relate back to yourself a lot. And I've been way more in touch with just how I feel about things. Why does that movie make me cry? Why does this song appeal to me? And it's been amazing the last month. And this book is it's amazing.
Nice. Taylee, you've been very silent, Taylee, and yet I know you've been very excited about it.
No, I just found throughout the book, I just feel like I couldn't stop reading, because every few pages I just kept I was relating to everything, and then I'd turn 2 pages and I'd read something else and go, oh my God, I can't have an individual experience in this world. Everything I was reading, I was like, yep, that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in what way has it enriched you? I mean, I wish I could be as advanced as you at the age of 21, but I was really a stuffed up kind of dude. I'm just inspired when I see someone now at your age being able to just comprehend this level of information.
Yeah, I kind of just I don't know, I guess it made me realize that it's normal to feel NG, and then it wasn't as I said, an individual experience. It was comforting almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Cam? Haven't said too much, mate. Tough day, long day.
Long day. I may get passionate here, so just forgive me. But I have, in hindsight, been privileged enough to work with Thomas over the last couple of years, probably on our NGE, without knowing what was actually going on. as he's been growing himself and coming across those discoveries, he's been seeing it in me and trying to help me with my stuff, but without labeling it, without doing different things. And it's been hard. It's been a really hard road, because without labels and without knowing why you were feeling the way you were feeling or what was going on, I'm a logical thinker a lot of the time, and I couldn't put it all together. And then I was lucky enough to read the early iterations of the book. And
Sorry,
going on there.
I just had a minor blackout, but I still have power. I did say at the beginning I'm having a pretty gnarly storm. Happening twice. But sorry.
I was lucky enough. I was lucky
That's not
enough.
good enough, Lou. I know.
Not good enough. I was lucky enough to read the first iteration of the book, or one of the first iterations of the book, and all the crap that you've been feeling for. I mean, Thomas is 100, but I'm 40, and all that crap you've been feeling for so long finally had a name, and it was not good enough. And there isn't 3 words that sum it up better. And when I look at everything I'd ever done and everything I was still doing and everything I still do today, because I've in no way fixed a lot of it, it was all about not feeling good enough. And the book came into the conference, and I'm probably the luckiest guy in the room, because while all of you were sort of getting hit with sledgehammers, I felt great at the conference, because I'd already been exposed to it and I'd already gone through a roller coaster of self-evaluation and dealing with certain aspects of it. So by the time we got to conference, Thomas asked me in the bathroom of all places afterwards how I was feeling, and I said, well, mate, I can't really say much other than happy, and is that okay? And he said, of course that's okay, but I just felt happy because I was finally at a stage where I know I'm a screw up, but it's okay to be a screw up, right? As long as we're trying not to be, we're okay. But so we left the conference, and I had a great few days, and then we were having dinner. We're having dinner on the Sunday night after the conference, and I got a call that one of my mates had killed himself. And I was upset and I was angry and I was all these things, but I left there, and I still sit here today just going, how does, if someone like Mort has access to this book, he doesn't kill himself. Because with the tools and the awareness, just the awareness that it's okay to be not good enough.
Yeah.
It's enough to stop someone putting their head in a noose. And that might sound dramatic and it might sound whatever, but I haven't reconciled it with it yet. And the last month has just been about how can I give that awareness to more people, because I'm in that age group. I'm 40 now and coming to the end of it, but the most people who kill themselves in Australia, especially are 30 to 40-year-old men who don't think they're good enough.
I think you're giving that awareness now, Cam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're giving that awareness now.
Yeah, I know, but it's not, how does, so I've done a few things. The one thing I have done for a change is not just talk about it. I've done a few things. I'm getting a few more boys together, and they're not the type of people we would hang out with, right? They're not, but they're my people from where I come from. I'll never forget where I've come from, and those blokes wouldn't have access to any of this stuff. They wouldn't sit here and watch this podcast, right? So how does someone from those areas and those upbringings and that socio-economic place ever get access to any shit like this? And I think we underestimate how lucky we are to be around it.
Yeah.
And it's something
One of us having something very noisy right next to is affecting the system here. Is it?
I think it's my blackout, perhaps, or my thunderstorm happening.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I'll mute.
But anyway, I'll stop crying and I'll just say this. It's something I've become I've always had a thing for mental health, and I don't think enough ever gets done about it, but I'm more passionate about it now than ever. And I think this book it hasn't got all the connotations attached to it that a lot of stuff has, like psychology and all those words that people are scared of, and we can help a lot of we can help a lot of people with it. And I don't, you know, I get accused a lot of just being, you know, Thomas's mate or Thomas's whatever, but the work he's done here is more important than anything he's ever done before, and I won't have an argument against it. So,
Cam, do you think, like, and Dean mentioned guilt and shame, and I think with NG as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but, you know, there's perhaps a healthy NG and a toxic NG, and do you think sometimes that shame and guilt and that feeling of NG is sometimes what strives us to get where we are? Like, you've got a successful career. Do you think that NG has in some ways fueled?
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt, but it's not sustainable, right? So, you know, I got to a lot of where I got by just trying to prove people wrong. I was bullied badly as a kid, and I've spent the rest of the time just trying to prove people wrong. And the people I couldn't prove wrong, I'd go to an even another level to prove them wrong. So while it's brought a lot of success, it's also brought a shitload of reckless behaviour. It's brought an attitude at certain points where I will go to extremes to prove that I don't care what you think, and a lot of stuff that people go through, but also a lot of the guilt and shame, and the freedom comes from learning to embrace it, right? That's why I felt happy at the end of the conference, right? I got to sit there and watch other people get punched in the face, and I wasn't taking pleasure in that, but I was like, shit, we're all in this together. The awareness comes when a bloke's sitting there about to put a noose around his neck. He thinks there's no one else going through what he's going through, right? There's no one else on the planet that knows how I'm feeling right now. So the awareness of that is what's going to help people, and is what's going to help everyone here. And it's okay. It's okay. And yes, that has fueled a lot of good. But unfortunately, and as you get from reading the book, and as you've learned, it doesn't stop with the good, because as soon as you get the good, if you're in my situation, you'll sabotage the good as soon as you can, for whatever reason, because you don't feel like you deserve it, or different bits and pieces. You'll do whatever you can to screw up all the good that you've just done. So it can be a positive. It's a constant, right? The one thing in the book is, and the one thing that Thomas says is, you've got it no matter what, and you'll never get rid of it.
Yeah.
You've got it. There's different levels of it.
Yep.
The awareness comes control of it. With control of it, you can probably use it as a superpower.
Yeah. I think, Cam, you spoke about it in a couple of podcasts ago where you actually, I think it was you going to your mate's funeral the next day, or you might have missed that podcast, you were going to your mate's funeral, and you said exactly the same thing. If more people had access to this material, wouldn't it make a difference? And I think you're 100% right. And it's something that, like Taylee told me early in the piece, that I didn't realise how common or how bad it was, particularly men between 18 and 40, and how many of them commit suicide. And the thing that I realised reading the book, that so many of us spend so much time running to avoid feeling, because feeling is hard and feeling is hurtful, and it's not always easy. And I think particularly for men, as you said, Dean, to show any form of vulnerability is considered a weakness if you're a man, or it has been. I think that's changing now thanks to books like this and various other material that people can get their hands on. And I think that's such an important thing, because I personally, as a female, if I see a man cry, I see nothing stronger in a human being than for a man to be able to stand there and do that. For somebody to be able to write some of the things that Thomas has written about in this book, that to me shows enormous strength, completely opposite to what society tells us. And I think you're 100% right. If people just had this, and I'm not going to call it basic knowledge, but in some respect it is, because it's sometimes just the simple things of how we talk to our kids, or and as Thomas writes about it, it's something that we don't inherit it, but we pass it down. And it's simply sometimes just that, in saying to our kids, you can be anything. The pressure that puts on a child, or you know, you will amount to anything, and don't let anybody tell you that you won't. Like, all these things, whilst they might seem positive, we don't realize the pressure that we put on each other by saying things like this. And I talk about it a little bit in, in being vulnerable and allowing people just to feel is probably one of the most powerful and changing things of our time, to sit with people in the mess and not try and push them through it, because when we do that, it's because it makes us feel uncomfortable. But we've got to allow people to just feel their way. And I think, Cam, if every man on the planet could have a copy of this book, that statistic of suicide would probably change dramatically, because
you've got a sound issue, Lou. You got a sound issue. Right? It's very noisy. Yeah. So here's the biggest thing. The book is not about something that will lead to suicide. So we have to be careful. I was in your office this morning, and the book is something that everyone does. Okay. And I was saying it's a funny thing, because I was among property managers who were doing an amazing job, and all that they could think of is it's not good enough. I wish we could do more. I wish we could be better. And as I'm standing around, all I could see and hear and feel were a bunch of people who, because they don't know but they're not good enough, all that they're doing is not good enough. And I'm thinking, these are the people who are going to go back home to their own children, and now they're going to pass it down, no matter what they do, because when you're not aware, you pass it down without even knowing how powerful or how bad it can actually affect people. And I said, it's funny, because the sales team across the road, they're not that as good as you. I said, they're not as good as you, but then they also do not good enough, but they do not good enough the opposite way. What they do is that they say to themselves, no, we're amazing. And they do the bit that they say, the fake it until you make it. And because they do that, they actually draw what is being written about these days about the imposter syndrome. Is that they, at some stage they feel, oh, hold on, maybe I'm not what I thought I would be. And so I said, it's a funny thing, isn't it? You have a bunch of people who are amazing, like probably better than the other side, but they think they're not good enough. And a bunch of people on the other side who are not as good as you, but who actually behave and think that they can actually move mountains. Both sides are doing not good enough. Right? This is the amazing thing, is that not good enough people sometimes either go and hide or go into conquest. And to answer your question earlier about Cam, Shaye, it is okay to win, but when the pursuit of winning is NGE based, it is bad. Because when you stop winning, NGE now will rear its head and it will make you pay. That's when self-sabotage comes in. That's when people do some self-harm. And this is why I say people need to deal with this. Like, I was in your office and I said, what was the best part? What was the best part in the book? And I said and I would like you guys to share the best part. But I said to your team today, to me, the best part was the realization when I wrote the book is most people marry the wrong person. Because both people are at the different level of NGE. And by the time they wake up to their lust, NGE now is in full force. And this is why we have such a high rate of divorce. It's because most of us get into a relationship when our NGE is so bad and we haven't worked on it. And I said to them, it's not bad if you have that. Now that you know that, what you need to do is you have to make sure your partner is working on NGE with you so that it's clean, because if not, there will be something that you guys will do as a ping pong match, but then also your children will get it.
So it's interesting when you said that this morning, Thomas, and my response to you was, I don't even remember that bit, because that bit didn't sing to me. And I think you can read a book over and over again, and every time you read it, depending on what's happening in your life, you'll pick up something different. And just to go back to your comment about the property managers and not thinking that good enough, I think Lou hit that on the head earlier when she said, we're always told we can be anything and everything. And there's that expectation that that's exactly what we need to be. And that probably brings me to one of my favourite parts of the book, was when you talk about we can have anything, but we can't have everything. Life's a smorgasbord, but the plate's just not big enough. That was probably one of my biggest. Well, I highlighted it and I put a sticky note on it.
Yeah, can you show us your book, because I was show us your book.
So I'm a highlighter.
Greenpeace is watching their pool, mate, all that plastic.
Yeah, but it's going to save someone's life. I told you that.
Nice. So what else? What did you get, Taylee? What did you get out of the book? What was the most important thing for you?
You're on mute again, Taylee. She's not used to these Zooms.
I really enjoyed the coaches versus mentors part, and the five levels of self.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, 5 levels of self. That's correct. Yes.
I actually read that one twice. Those 5 levels of self. I was sitting there and I was going over and over them last night.
And don't you worry, I still go through over and over.
Yeah, and I was like, am I this one? Am I this one? Maybe I'm all of them.
No. The 5 level is that, I mean, the 5th one, you never get there, but the 5 level is about how you get to feel them at some stage in your life. There's moment like, as we are speaking right now, as we get centered, as Cam really open his heart out to the world, he catches a glimpse of that self, of that true self. But then after that, we'll go back to the self that we live with, which is our current self, you know?
I'm back.
Yeah, he's back already. See? So it's a beautiful thing. But I think it's, if you are already playing with the 5 level of self, Taylee, you're really, really advanced. Well done.
I'm interested, Taylor, I hope you don't mind me asking you questions, but shit, at 21, if I put myself at 21, there's a lot of things I can't talk about on this podcast that I was doing, right? And
he comes from the Central Coast too, Taylee.
Hey.
Go strong. Don't worry about it. They're going to legalise most of that stuff shortly anyway, so we're all going to fine. It's not going to be a problem. You already mentioned the 5 levels of self. I know I was getting to a question. I'm just trying to work out how to frame it. What emotions come over you when it hits you? Because at 21, I read this stuff and I go, and this might be controversial because your mum's on this podcast, but me at 21 was blaming my parents for everything, right? So I read that book and I go, I was right. You did do it to me. Like me at 21 does that because that's what I was doing anyway. And the book says we do it to our kids. So all of a sudden, I'm interested to be in the mind of a 21-year-old now who's not affected by other things.
Well, yeah, I related so much to everything in the book that Thomas was writing about, and then I don't know, it kind of just like resonated with me that other people feel that way as well. Like I just thought, I don't know, I kind of thought like, why do I feel like this? What's going on? And then I was like reading and thinking, oh, other people feel like that as well. And then I got to the end, I thought, oh, that's NGE, and now I know what NGE is. And
is it a feeling of I can change this, or is it a feeling of this is someone else's fault?
Oh. I feel like it's my own fault.
Oh, that's nice. She's reading. She's read the book, mate. She's read the book. Well done. Hey, just for you to remember, Shaye, on page 169, that's where I talk about that bit on relationship, and it says, "I love you" has different meanings. What does "I love you" mean? You make me feel complete. I need you. I want to live with you. I'm scared of being alone. Or you make me feel safe. And this is where I said, very few people love for the sake of love itself. Some people are scared of commitment, while others are looking for someone to take over from their father or their mother, and it keeps on going. And I think that these are some of the things that happened. When I first met my wife, Veronique, I was incapable of love. I didn't know what love was about because I was too scared of love, because love hurt me so much throughout my younger years. And yet Veronique is an individual who's been brought up with so much love. So she exuded so much love. So now we get into a relationship, the two of us. She's all about love, and I'm all about, if I can connect with you, I'll be very happy. But if you give me love, I'm going to probably run. And so that's where the dance is. Now, if she wasn't that patient and I wasn't that committed to really changing, we probably wouldn't be together. Because someone who's only into connection and not wanting to see love will never stay with someone who wants love. Because the first 2 years of the relationship, you fall in love and it's all lust, right? It's all sex and it's all these things. But after those 2 years, you now start waking up to this and you go, hold on, I want something a bit more here. And that's when you say, hold on, you're only giving me connection and I need love. And the other person's going, you're giving me some poison apple I don't want, which is love. I'm okay with connection. And this is when people break.
Do you think TL, even writing that stuff, I know I can honestly say when I read it, part of me went, I hope my wife doesn't read it because I don't want her, maybe what happens if she realizes that she was in it for the wrong reasons or what's going to happen. It's a very confrontational situation, especially for someone who's in a marriage or in a relationship. Do you think people are going to gloss over that just because it's too hard to deal with, or
I think that people will deal with that whenever they're ready. And this is why the book has been written not as a psychologist, from a psychologist's point of view, but as a guy who struggled through life without seeing psychologists to sort it out for himself. And if this book now can help 21-year-old, 10-year-old, 2-year-old, or whoever, or parents helping their kids, I think it'll make a huge difference, because I truly believe that most of our problems comes from doing things to please our parents. It comes from doing so that we meet society's standards. I see people, if they are no longer winning, they quit the career. I've seen top salespeople, 2/4 of not being the number one in their office, they walk away from their career. I mean, these are the things that happen all the time. I see people, I'm not proud to say, but I have done this to my kids. For example, Charlotte was a top horse rider. I reckon I stuffed up her dressage because I put so much into, kid, you have to succeed, you got the gift and a whole lot. I disgusted her. She was more worried about what is dad going to think after my dressage test than me. I reckon that I have driven the twins away from their tennis games because I saw a gift. They were in there, I saw a gift, and then I wanted them to succeed so badly out of love. But I drove them into a territory they didn't like. And the territory is, we enjoyed the game before. Now we feel like we have to win in the game in order to receive dad's love. That we don't like. And so I stuffed up the gifts.
Yeah. I think talking about the relationship part as well, and on that same page, Thomas, the part that I really highlighted is, in reality, a relationship is merely a dance between different NGE. They affect one another because they both come with their own NGE baggage.
Yeah.
And a couple needs to grow together, or they run the risk of going apart. And I think that's so true. And recognizing that, because as you say, there's the honeymoon phase where we all fall in love and everything's hunky-dory and flowers and roses and everything else, and then after time you start to go, I don't like that in that person, or that makes me feel uneasy when that person does that or acts that way or says that. And I think having the awareness to be able to recognize what that is, but then able to work towards fixing that or elevating that, can help people and couples grow together. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons is people don't realize that each other's doing NGE.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the sort of following on from that as well, like once you become more self-aware, you start seeing it in other people as well. And for me, we always say we have a master degree in shit finding for other people, so it's a lot harder to look inside. But now that I'm looking externally as well with my family and my friends, and I'm just observing, just being a sort of a silent observer, just see what they say, and then it's starting to now bring awareness to me. It's like, oh, why are they doing that? And so for me, and this sort of brings me back to what Cameron was saying earlier, was like, instead of just blaming my parents for what happened, I'm now looking past that, and I'm finding myself saying, oh, that's why she or he does that. And so it's helped me gain a lot more peace for myself too. And it's not just being, just blame your parents for who you are, but they've had their generation of, and maybe my grandparents were quite tough on my parents as well. So it's brought me a lot more peace that way too. It's just, that's because of that. And so, yeah, and that's extending to my relationship as well. And it's given me a lot more patience, I think, not just with myself, or with myself actually a lot, but also with other people and what they do, and whatever NGE they've got as well.
Nice.
I think Taylee commented before that her NG is, for her, you put that down to yourself. And I think there's not necessarily going to be an NG in all these aspects of your life. Or, I've been with my husband for 20 years, and both really happy. I don't know, you might say something different, but and I'm really fortunate and grateful for that. And perhaps that's the reason why that chapter didn't quite reach me as some of the others did. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's people who are at same NG level. So two people like Veronique, who would have had like a beautiful, loving kind of childhood, probably would have done it, no problem, unless they had other things. So I'm not saying that, everyone will come in and wreck the relationship. That's why we don't have 100% divorce. But we're over 50. Now, the big thing is that the NGE comes down to even work. I sat in a meeting this morning, and these salespeople are going around the room and they're talking about their business. And I'm sitting there and I could see you're doing NG, you're lying because you now kind of can't stand being perceived as a person who's not pulling their weight. So, and it's driven by your NG. I think that NG is something that can be seen in very small things. The five of you now, seriously, after you've read the book now, the five of you now have got the ability to just perceive NG like this. You're in the room, you can see that's happening, that's happening, that's happening. Here's the thing: if you're a nice person, you can help the other people get out of their NG. But if you're a nasty person, you can actually manipulate the other people.
But correct me if I'm wrong, we shouldn't even be trying until we've worked on ourselves, yeah?
But you can't help it. As you work on yourself, you can't help it. I've probably have worked a lot on Dean over the last few weeks. I've seen like a huge jump, and because he sees now what I have discussed with him, he can't help it. He sits in front of someone, they start talking, and he starts seeing it. It's coming out at him.
Seeing it and trying to fix it are two completely different things, though, right?
No, that is correct. Trying to fix it, first you have to do it yourself.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I quite often find myself seeing it, and then because I haven't sorted my own stuff yet, I get really stuck. I'm just like, I don't know how to help them aside from buy the book and send it to them. So I was having a chat to even some of my clients, and they were saying, oh, we're burning out with business and doing this and that, and always helping other people. And so I saw the NGE there, and I knew her parents as well. And so, but I didn't know how to fix it. So I just sent the book. It's a bit of a cop out, but
no, it's not a cop out. It goes a long way. You've done 50% of the business. Now they have to read. and it's good that you say something like this. The book is all over the place for the moment. And believe it or not, I'm selling more books overseas than in Australia.
Because they can understand you better.
No, and what I'm realizing is that many of us want to change, but not many of us are ready to pay the price to change.
Yeah,
I think it's important. There's all stages here. I think we're all in. So Taylor's 21. How old are you, Dano?
I am 33 soon.
So you're the same age I was when I picked up my very first personal development book.
Right.
But I was 40 before I learned about NGE or had a title on it. Thomas is 100. So, Taylee, the head start you've got over the rest of us, and Dean, the head start you've got over the rest of everyone except Taylee.
Yeah.
And I mean, you only hope that they. I at 21, you could have thrown it in front of me. I wouldn't have cared, wouldn't have done anything with it, wouldn't have known, and I would have still got the 33 and gone, oh shit, I remember reading a book like that one upon a time, right? That's me, and I'm not regretting it, and I don't. My story is my story, and I'm grateful for every moment. It's been a lot of fun, but the head start you guys have got on the rest of us.
Yeah.
I won't ask the ladies how old they are, but the head start.
We're 100 too. Like
the head start you guys have got on the rest of us is and to do something with it, outstanding, mate. To be dealing with your NGE at 33 instead of 40 and 50 and beyond, mate. Unbelievable.
No, I feel really lucky. It's I was talking to my barber actually, and
he's not very good.
It's the first one that cuts my hair probably, and no, he does a good job. But no, he was talking about his partner and his partner's father, who was I think 60 something, and he was going through a divorce, and it was about only a month or two ago that he actually ended up killing himself. And the way it happened was, well, the daughter and the father had an argument. The divorce was triggered from a bunch of different things, but obviously the guy wasn't sort of dealing with his NGE. Maybe, I don't know exactly what happened, but after the argument happened, the father killed himself. And right before he did it, he sent a message to his daughter saying, "You did this to me."
Oh, God.
Then he did it. And it really made me think, like, how much normally I'd think, okay, my initial reaction was a lot of anger, like, how could you do that to your child? But then I'm also now, after reading the book, I'm looking at it and going, he needed some serious help, and stuff like this is so, it really got me quite upset just even thinking about it. And obviously now the daughter's like, what does that do to the daughter, and how much does that, that's a lifetime of a shackle to put on somebody. So just having tools like this now in my fingertips, at least now I can just buy the book, send it to somebody, and hopefully they're ready to work on themselves as well. But if we can just prevent things like this, it's not just young men, it's a lot of men and women obviously too, but men in particular, I used to just process everything logically. I thought I'm pretty intelligent. I can understand what's going on inside, but I was coming up with all these different logical reasonings as to why things work. But sometimes it was just a simple meditation that fixed my problems, or just becoming aware of my feelings fixed a lot of my issues as well. So I think it's just so important. So important.
Yeah.
We really, now that we've got it, we have to, I feel responsible. Like I have to spread it. Like I've got the tool now.
It's funny you say that, Dean, because I was thinking about, whilst I was reading the book, and then when I realized, Taylee was so far into the book and that she was going to be on this podcast as well, I tried to put myself in a 21-year-old's shoes, but it's not always easy to do looking back, because when I was 21, it's a lot different to when she was 21. And one of the biggest differences is, and like Thomas puts in the book, like social media being a magnifier for our NGE. I think that's a big thing that, it plays a big role in a lot of people either doing good or bad in terms of, whatever it is, but also including their mental health, because too many people put too much emphasis on the like and the as Thomas says, like, if even if they don't get enough likes, they delete the post because it makes them look bad or feel bad, or it triggers something within them. But the other thing, and I don't know the pages, Thomas, but you talked about, identifying self is like a jigsaw. It's not something that needs to be fixed. It's something that needs to be uncovered. And I think a lot of the time we think that when we uncover these different levels of ourself, that there's something wrong with us. We should never feel like that.
No.
We've just become or found a level of ourselves that just needs exploring, not fixing, because we are who we are and we exist as we are, and we just need to explore and understand why we do what we do, and why is that making us do what we do, or think the way we do, or feel the way we do. It's not something that needs necessarily fixed. To some extent, probably you could think that, but it just needs to be understood rather than fixed. The other thing, Thomas, the story that you talked about when 2003, I think it was, when you went to Europe and you traveled around, and the story
A winery?
of winery.
Winemaker, yeah.
And I really that really hit home to me, and because as I was reading it, I almost knew what you were going to say. I almost knew what the next lines were, because it was like I was going, yeah, well, this is what you're going to say, but I knew also what this guy was going to say. And I think sometimes we chase things, or we pursue things to the detriment of our own good. We lose sight of the bigger picture and what really matters in life, and we chase things to, like, whether it's money or significance or a level of, we've created or achieved in our careers. Yeah, we try and chase these things, but really the bigger picture's right there in front of us. We just don't see it, and in that instance, it was, the guy was happy anyway. No amount of money would have changed his life. He was already happy, and I think they're the big things that I took away from the book as well.
One of the things that I didn't really get into that was that, is it because I had the NGE that I was trying to find sympathy in somebody else? But that the guy was so strong, and that he didn't have that NGE, that he was the one who gave me the lesson. But the lesson I didn't learn until many years after, because I wasn't ready for the lesson.
Yeah. And like you did say, that you went for years thinking, what's wrong with that guy? He missed a golden opportunity. But 20 years later, you realize the golden opportunity, the guy already had it all worked out. He had exactly what he wanted. It was so awesome. It was just such a revelation for me, because I've seen myself and other people do exactly that, and the big picture's right there, and they have everything they need right there in that moment. They just don't either realize it or appreciate it or recognize it, I think. Yeah.
Theo, can I ask, one of the things I've often pondered, since I started reading the very first iteration, is what you would have gone through writing it. And I've talked a little bit about age already, and I'll be serious about it now, not pick on you, but you're 50 plus, right?
I'm 55.
Right, so you're 55 years old, and I've worked across a lot of industries that come across a lot of people in your generation: hospitality, or port and beers. I've been in the fitness industry, and now in real estate. And for a 55-year-old to want to embark on this journey of change, or even think that they could change, or have the energy left to change, I picture people in my circle just going, oh, look, this is how I've been for 50 years, and that's how I'm going to be for the next 50 years, because can't teach an old dog new tricks, that sort of thing. We've talked about the blessing or the opportunity that Taylee and Dean have at the age they're at to get a head start on the rest of the world, but you've sort of shown that it isn't too late for people who are thinking they're past it. We see it in real estate. We see people who've been in the industry for 20 years who can't get up and go again when they just might need one more push because they've been doing it for so long. And this is so much harder than just calling someone and asking if they're selling, right? The stupid thing about real estate is we can just pick up the phone and ask someone if they're selling. It solves all our problems. But so, I can only imagine how freeing it was and how lighter you must feel. But so, is there a message you can give to people of your generation about?
As I said many times in the book, and also I said it once in this podcast, when you're ready, you'll do it. And I think that it's when the pain is unbearable, you do it. And I reckon I have done a lot to put a lid on my NGE. I have run after endeavors. Many I've failed, many things I've done, I've failed. Some things I've done, I succeeded. But it was not bad for a journey of a guy who came here with $400 and no English to have done what I've done. And when I should have been sitting down and enjoying the laurels, I have that simmering feeling. I had that simmering feeling that something's not right. I feel so much emptiness every now and then. There is something that is missing. And I think that when that something's not right and something's missing becomes so big that you go, I can't live for the rest of my life like this. I think that's a time that you will make the decision. And so quite often, even though I see NGE in people, I can't change it. I mean, I sat in front of quite a few groups today that I saw NGE, this, NGE. And one of the next book I'm doing is a workbook on NGE, and I also show people like what type of NGE they have so they can really find out what type they have. And I can't tell them to change it because some people are okay with that. Some people have made a conscious effort to do this. I mean, one of the things that I explain is about my sister Anne, who put a lid on her NGE and then focus her NGE on her two kids. I mean, these two poor kids, it's like, thank God it turned out the way it is, but still I see NGE in those two kids, right? But how unfair is it that if you can't really go after the success that you want your children to fulfill it for you? And we keep on getting that wheel to go over and over again, and it doesn't stop. And this is why you have people who say, I don't have NGE, but no, you don't have it because everything is focused on to somebody else. I sat 2 weeks ago with a guy who said to me, Thomas, I know you had a traumatic life, therefore you had NGE, but I don't think I had. Anyway, I spoke to him about 5 minutes and I said, all right, here, this is your NGE. And he goes, oh, well, now that you say that, I think I said, anyway, 3 days later, he sends me a text. He says, mate, that bloody NG just reared its head. How do I fix it? Because I got into a fight with someone in my family over that. And I said, this is what's going to happen. I know exactly how you will, when you will lose your temper, how you will lose your temper, what's going to trigger you. Why? Because it's not you, it's your NG. And when you know that, you can do something about it. If you do the ostrich syndrome, then it doesn't matter. You will go to your deathbed never knowing who you've damaged, how you damaged them, and it's maybe sometimes irreparable.
The biggest example for me, Thomas, and I think I mentioned this to you while we were in Noosa, but my 12-year-old son received an offer for a selective school, an academic selective school. And he said to me, Mum, what if I fluked the test? And it was like, whoa. Ouch. Yeah.
and it's a funny, it's sometimes you tell a kid, mate, you're doing an amazing job. I know you can do that. I believe in you. And it's a perfect line. And sometimes that same line to another kid and you destroyed the kid. I mean, that's mainly because you've got no idea about NG, no clue about how it happens. And therefore you use lines that you think it's positive. No, a positive line on the wrong person with the wrong NG baggage can build or destroy them.
And I feel like now that I've read the book as well, looking back on some of the advice I've given to people, I look back and I cringe a bit because I'm like, that maybe that would have worked for me, but then for that person, that's not, and I've managed them completely wrong. And so this is not just a personal journey, but like for my business now, I can look at, okay, how can I help my team properly and not just blindly give advice and regurgitating crap that, I've heard, that's positive. So it's great. People, thank you so much for our first NG discussions. I'm sure we will have many more. And Taylee, I'm jealous. So I'm not going to thank you for today. I'm jealous. I thought I'd just let you know, and no NG in me in there. So, but I want to thank you, all of you, for making a difference, not only
to yourself, to your family, but also to me in this podcast. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Thomas.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
See you, bye.